pulled out the tech, got creative, sprayed the place up and changed my iTunes playlist. Updated my Facebook status, broken shameless, telling hoes lick the anus.
All right, brother, thanks very much for coming by and joining me for this. I'm honored, and it really is a privilege to have you here. So thank you very much.
Nah, honor's all mine, man. I appreciate everything that you're doing for all of us and everything. And yeah, it's my honor to come here, man, for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So, as you know, I haven't been doing it a whole lot of time. I mean, it's been about a year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half, and I'm new to a lot of stuff. So I haven't heard a ton of your music. But so I reached out to my buddy Jake, who lives in Manchester. He's a huge fan. He was so excited when he knew I was going to be talking to you. So
cool.
He gave me some things that he wanted, that he said I might want to touch base with you on. So, you know, you're one of the legends, man. One of the OGs way back. I think you released your first album like 2 decades ago. At this point, yeah.
No. Listen, I'm 18. Okay, do you know what I mean? I'm 18. Yeah. I only released my first album a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, it's been a while. Yeah.
And one of the interesting things too that I know nothing about, to be honest, the first time I ever heard the term pirate radio was when that movie came out called Pirate Radio. So apparently you had some airplay. What was that all about? Like this whole pirate radio idea?
Well, okay, so like in England, I mean, I can specifically speak on London and say that a lot of underground music sort of existed on pirate radio. And like what pirate radio is just basically illegal radio. Do you know what I mean? People would just set up shop in wherever, like, you know, like mainly like, you know, local housing estates and stuff like that. And like they'll, you know, put up like a mast like at the top of the building and just broadcast music, you know what I mean? So like, you know, particularly things like jungle music, you know, drum and bass, garage, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? But really it's just illegal radio. And at the time that you're speaking about probably is when I had a show with a couple of my brethren, DJ Vile and DJ Anonymous, on a station called Itch FM, which exists now in the sort of digital domain.
I've heard that, yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, like Itch FM is just it's a godsend, really. Do you know what I mean? Because with pirate radio, it was never really focused on hip hop music. Like I said, it was mainly about, you know, these other things that come out of England, like jungle, drum and bass, garage, all this kind of stuff. But like Itch FM was like dedicated to hip hop, basically. Do you know what I mean? So it was one of the first times that we could have a station that could be just on at all times, you know, obviously when it didn't get taken down and stuff, because that's another thing that happens. Like, you know, DTs find the mass and then it's over with, you know what I mean? But like Itch FM was on quite consistently, you know? And yeah, so I did the show there with those guys probably for about a year, and it was good fun. Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? I'm probably, you know, before my music got played any, you know, on maybe any sort of terrestrial radio, like legal radio, I was getting played on like stations like Itch FM. Shouts out to Ghost and DJ Disorder and all these other guys that were playing my stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was good. It's a lifeline for people like me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like other than actually standing on the corner when you were doing it, handing out records, right?
Yeah.
Not tapes and CDs. It was
same
thing. I've talked to Blade about it. And he's like, you know, we cart around crates of records and hand them out in the corner. So I guess this was the only other way to get your music out to people, right?
Definitely, because there's only, I mean, especially when I was sort of like coming up, it was a lot more difficult to get stuff going than it is now. You know, thank God for the internet and thank God for all of that stuff. You know, it's made life that little bit more easy. I mean, none of this is easy, but it's made life a little bit more easy. Do you know what I mean? Because back then, you know, like especially even before that time, sort of like when I was a lot younger, it's just listening and just, you know, absorbing game. Like basically, you know, there was a lot of UK hip hop around. You know what I mean? A lot of strong, proud UK hip hop, right? But like the masses weren't trying to hear it. Do you know what I mean? At all. Do you know what I mean? So it was quite difficult to get your music heard on any of these like bigger platforms that were around at the time. Do you know what I mean? Because it just wasn't, it just wasn't the thing that they believed in, I guess. But there was still a very strong scene of people making very strong music. Do you know what I mean? But a few people got through. Like people like Black Twang, people like Ty, rest in peace. All of these guys, Brotherhood, Scientists of Sound, all of these kind of guys got through. You know what I mean? In part to the work of people like, sort of like radio DJs like Max Alex and Davey J, who are on our Kiss FM. I think you guys got Kiss FM out there as well, right?
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they're linked or anything like that, but our Kiss FM over here started off as a pirate radio station as well, actually, and then became legal. Yeah, and became one of the biggest stations. But they had a rap show on there with these two DJs, Max Alex and Davey J, and they were really good. They played a whole bunch of stuff, but they also played the real good UK stuff too. Also, people like DJ 279 as well. He used to play a bunch of stuff as well. But it was kind of like sort of like contained within those guys. Do you know what I mean? But those were good times. Those guys, those radio shows pretty much shaped my ear with hip hop. Because I would just religiously, in front of the radio whenever those things came on. Do you know what I mean? Like people would be out doing whatever, but I'd be at home. Do you know what I mean? And they'd look at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was. Do you know what I'm saying? But do you know what I mean? I couldn't bear to miss any cool shit that was coming up on there. Do you know what I mean? I was a proper fiend.
I get that, because when I was younger, we didn't get any of that music either. But there was a show called Rap City on Much Music, which is like our MTV, and they would only do that once a week. So, and with commercials, it was like a half an hour show, and I think with commercials and shit, you may have got three to five videos that you actually saw, but you didn't want to miss that because that's where you got the music, right? Otherwise, you weren't hearing it on the radio and whatever.
Exactly.
So two questions is, why do you think at that time people weren't feeling hip hop, so to speak? Actually, answer that one first, because the second question is kind of not connected to that, but I guess in a kind of way it is, because I guess it is connected, because so I'm thinking, like, how would someone like yourself get music to these DJs who were doing these shows on the private radio? I know you had your own show, but before that, I know myself, like with my channel, every day I get dozens of artists who are up and coming who want me to listen to their music and put their music on the channel. So I can imagine it was similar in that way, where you have to approach these guys and ask them to play your music. So how would that process go? Like, be like?
Well, what I would say is, so a lot of what I was saying about, it's very difficult for people out there. I mean, people in the UK were feeling hip hop, yeah, but they seem to have a problem with British hip hop for some reason. You know what I'm saying? Back then, you know what I mean? Because I think, I don't know, I can only hazard a guess and say that perhaps people just viewed it, even our own people kind of viewed it as an American thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, why are you guys doing it kind of thing, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the music business as well. So when you see like the big American artists, you kind of like can forget that there's like, marketing and promotion behind these guys and money and all this kind of stuff. So we come along and we're doing everything grassroots, or maybe the generation before me as well, like obviously, doing things on a grassroots level, and maybe people might not see it as good because it doesn't look as polished, you know what I mean? Like, even if the music is dope, it doesn't come across to them as polished, possibly. I don't know. It's a very strange time. I remember certain times when people were getting booed before they even started rapping. Do you know what I mean? It's quite interesting. You know what I'm saying? So it was, so I always say to people, like be happy, because these times are a lot better than what I witnessed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like even before I started putting out music. But so in terms of getting stuff over to people, like what we used to do, like I think probably like the most effective way that I learned about stuff was, you know, back then you kind of like had to, you if you were serious, you had to press up a record. Do you know what I mean? And I think also as well, you going through the process of pressing up a record showed people that you was serious as well. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So when you then approach people, because, you know, obviously we all know who all the DJs were. So when we go and approach someone, you know what I mean? And we approach them with the right energy and show them, you know, we're committed because we got this record and everything like that. You know, we would just go direct. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can speak to myself. I can speak about myself when we pressed up records and stuff. You know, we would go. You know, we'd go to Kiss FM, we'd go to Radio 1, and you know, we'd speak to the people there and be like, can we get this to, you know, X, Y, or Z? Do you know what I mean? Just do it directly. You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But you know, it was good. It was a good thing to do on a regular basis, because then, you know, obviously the more you do it, the more that they would recognize you. And, you know, if they end up listening to it and liking it, they're more likely to play it, because, you know, they can put a name, they can put a face to the record as well. So to answer your question, a lot of it was done like very directly. Do you know what I mean? It was just a case of knowing, you know, who was who, and just, you know, just hitting them up. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously we didn't have things like Instagram and stuff like that. So the networking was a bit different. You had to be, you know, you had to sort of put yourself out there, and, you know, you couldn't just find someone's Instagram page and go, hey, what's up? Do you know what I mean? You had to literally go down there and show them your stuff, you know? So yeah, man.
So kind of, you're talking about the old, you brought up the old stuff, old hip hop type of stuff. Is that where Strange You was kind of born out of, with this idea of the two turntables and the microphone? Like the hip hop kind of got away, even though it's still that, it kind of got away from that in terms of, like for myself, being an old head, man, when I hear that record crackle in the back, and I know it's put in there digitally, but I love I love the sound, right? There's something about that. So is that kind of where Strange You was born out of? Is that desire of that old hip hop?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Strange You, and yeah, I mean, Strange You was pretty much born out of, okay, I'll give you the backstory. So basically, around about 2010, I stopped doing music, basically. Do you know what I mean? Because I was just, I don't know, I was kind of disillusioned. I mean, like the turning point was, we was doing the Galactus album at that time. And I remember there's this venue here called the Roundhouse in Camden. And it's a big venue, but we was in one of the smaller rooms, right? And remember I was just on stage and there's like an extremely tough crowd. Do you know what I mean? And just after a while, I just caught myself thinking about other stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was on stage, right? And I was just thinking about, oh, this is what I'm gonna do when I get home. Oh yeah, there's that pot of strawberries in the fridge still. I think I'm gonna eat that. You know what I'm saying? And then like I kind of like caught myself and I was thinking, what the hell? So then after that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna stop for a while. And then what I ended up doing was like figuring, you know what? Let me sort of like re-find what got me into music in the first place, right? So I just put down the mic, put down everything, and just return back to just being ahead. Because that's another thing I wasn't doing. I wasn't listening to music while I was doing, you know, making these albums or whatever. So I got back to making music. And then sort of in that period of time, I sort of like got the bug, started getting the bug back again. But when I started doing Strange You, like Zygo was around, but it wasn't, you know, he wasn't part of the thing. It was actually me and the next friend of mine called Sophie who started Strange You, but she moved to Australia. And then when she did that, you know, me and Zygo just kind of like locked in more and just did more songs. Alex Nutt, who runs Eglo Records. I'd seen him around about 2010 actually, because I did this festival with Flip Tricks and Verb T called Outlook Festival, and he was on the bill as well. So the connection there is that with Alex Nutt, who runs Eglo Records, he used to work at a PR company called Zonkt, right? And Zonkt promoted my first album, In the Hour of Chaos, right? And I hadn't seen him since then. It had been a bunch of years, but then I saw him on the coach and he was like, oh, and then we were speaking and he spoke about his label and stuff. But at the time I told him, look, I ain't really, I'm just out here to play, But then when I got the Strange You stuff, sort of, he was like, yeah, I'm down to put that out. And then I said to Zygo, yo, let's lock in fully. But the mentality that we had going in on it was, for me, I was like, right, this time around, I've got to be better than I was before. You know what I'm saying? And because I'd gone back and like sort of like reconnected with, me as a head, I was like, right, I'm going to really like go in and like sort of like study the stuff that I grew up on and, channel that stuff. Do you know what I mean? With Zygo, like he's like me in the sense that, we gravitate to older sounds, right? But, we like to have a sort of like futuristic sort of, slant on it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of the old, so it's like using old techniques to do futuristic shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's like watching, Star Trek, the original series. Do you know what I mean? For example,
that was the
like,
first thought in my head. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a very much older aesthetic, but it's very futuristic. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So that's really it for Strange You. We definitely vibe and just trip out on, old production techniques and like, just different ways of doing stuff. Hence, like, we'd have like things like distortion on the vocals, slap back delays on the vocals. There'll be like some dubby stuff going on with the beat and the beats and stuff. Like Zygo is very into like learning like old dub techniques and like, implementing them into hip hop and stuff like that. So yeah, we definitely sort of vibe off the older way of doing things, but we don't like to get trapped in the past, but we love the older stuff.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I always appreciate when I stumble across a new artist or they find me on the channel is when you can almost tell almost immediately if they have that love for old hip hop or they appreciate. Like I'll use Barbarian as an example. When I listen to him, right? When you listen to him, I mean, you can tell he has that. He knows where he's come from, right? He knows who's come before him. He knows it's going to be his job eventually to carry the torch forward, and he does so humbly, right?
Yeah.
Some artists come up and they're kind of like, "Screw you guys." Like, yeah, I'm now, I'm now the voice of hip hop, and they forget about who came before them. Yeah. So I always appreciate that when an artist can go back to the roots, and that's kind of the reason why I got out of hip hop over here. There was only a handful of artists I actually felt were staying true to the sound and staying true to what made hip hop great. Yeah. And I know it's kind of like if I had dug deeper, I'd find them. But I'm sure it's just like what you're saying over there. Only certain things were being promoted. Certain, that's why too. I didn't know this, but like that's why a lot of the UK artists at the beginning were doing the American accent because they wanted to be accepted as an artist.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's funny over here in Canada, it's very much the same thing until say probably 10 years, 15 years. Our sitcoms and stuff, very funny. Canadians are very funny people.
Yeah,
but we weren't respecting a Canadian sitcom because it wasn't an American sitcom, right?
Right.
And so we kind of get that, same type of thing too. But
it's a very strange phenomenon, really, isn't it? Because you'd kind of expect if it's your home team, you'd expect people to be, with it from the beginning. Do you know what I mean? But like sometimes,
Exactly, yeah.
sometimes the familiarity maybe is the thing that puts people off. Perhaps. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Mm.
I think something too. We look at America, maybe not so much now these days.
Yeah.
But we in the past we looked at America and I feel badly about it. I even did it recently when I did that Triple Darkness track.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I know Triple Darkness is they're their own group, it's their own sound, but the very first thing I think about is Wu-Tang Clan when I hear the opening, and I hate that I make that connection immediately because they're not Wu-Tang Clan, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, there's a sad thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't think it's a bad thing to recognize, the influences. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, clearly they were influenced, but as we all know, they do their own thing. You know what I mean? But obviously, I mean, we're all influenced by Wu-Tang in some way. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. How could you not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry if I'm looking around. I'm just looking around for the for my charger, because my laptop at the moment is at the point where if you take it off the charger and it's on 100%, within about 30 seconds it's down to 0.
Oh yeah, I know all about that. Yeah.
But influences are good, man. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, those guys.
Who would you consider your influences if you had to consider that for yourself?
Well, a lot of people think my main influence is like MF Doom or something like that. Yeah, but it actually isn't. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if I was to say, I mean, my influences are sort of like, when it comes to hip hop, are quite, there's a few of them. But in terms of like rapping, right, my main sort of, I have a holy trinity, right? This holy trinity is Godfather Don, Sir Menelik, and Cool Keith. Do you know what I mean? Like those three are my guys. But like in terms of music, like what got me into even being interested in making music was Native Tongues, right? Like that was literally the first group of people that I mean, obviously I was listening to music before and stuff, but like the ones that, when it really caught my attention was with 3 Feet High and Rising, and also the first Tribe Called Quest album, People's Instinctive Travels, right? So like those 2 albums got me interested in making music, basically. And then from there, it just spiraled out of control, basically. You know what I mean? And then, but yeah, and it was that and like a combination of like, so I've got family in Washington, DC, right? So in my sort of like between around maybe like 90 to like 95, 96, I was going back and forth to go visit family and staying out there. It wouldn't be like I'd be out there for a week. I'd be out there for like, a couple of, a few weeks to a month sometimes, and, just, I don't know, I guess I was just like soaking up the atmosphere. And then that's another thing that sort of like influenced me as well. Do you know what I mean? Is that time that I spent in the States, it was very, very valuable time for me. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so there's Native Tongues, and then also another group that sort of like, really inspires me is the Beastie Boys. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm massively into the Beastie Boys. Do you know what I mean? In fact, they're my favorite band. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really just like, just everything about what they do just really inspires me and just gets me excited. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'd say those are my main influences, man. But there's lots. I can add in London Posse in there as well. Shout out to Rodney P. Like, that, because, prior to listening to London Posse, just like a lot of people, I used to rap in a bit of an American accent. Then they released this song called How's Life in London in like 93, right? And then, it's all London accent, it just felt like you just, you know what I mean? I hadn't really experienced sort of hearing a tune where, you know, I could completely get it. Like, I was here in the environment. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so it was that. And then like that, from that day on, when I heard that one song, How's Life in London, it's just like everything changed, you know what I mean? It's like straight up, like, you know, my accent, etc., etc. Trying to think beyond that. Yeah, lots of influences. Task Force, you know, when I was in my late teens, I actually met, I think it was my late teens. Yeah, it would have been like 98, maybe 99, maybe, I think. Basically I'd seen Task Force around, I'd seen Mud Family around, right? Obviously at the jams and shows, etc., but I never got to meet them. And I wasn't really releasing records at that point. But you know, through just by chance, you know, I got to meet Farmer G, and you know, from that point on, he kind of like just invited me round to his house, and you know, I got to witness them like making tunes, you know, just sort of making beats how they used to do it, and like, man, those guys are just like beasts with it. Like, you know, I still remember to this day when I sit down and I was talking to them, and they was talking about their school days and how they used to rap and make recordings and all this kind of stuff. And they pulled out these like 3 or 4 boxes, right, filled with pages of lyrics. You know what I mean? Just
Wow.
filled. And it's like not even in, like, I preach like this: if they've still got those boxes, like they could make albums now, not have to write anything new. You know what I mean? And like, so like seeing all of that stuff was massively inspiring to me. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just like another level to what I'd ever witnessed. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man. Yeah.
And I guess it helps too when you actually can see somebody with your own eyes, sit there beside them and see that it's possible, right? Because sometimes it feels like it's not possible, and
Exactly.
it can get discouraging too if you're in the middle of it and you're muddling away at it for years and nothing seems to be happening, and you don't
Exactly.
have that influence, right? It's
Definitely. And there was a lot of you know, there was a lot of stuff that they demystified for me as well. So like, you know, even though I was making tunes, that, you know, for them, watching those guys that were at that level, because this is post New Mike Order, which is probably, I don't know, some could argue that's their seminal, you know, album, the seminal project. You know what I'm saying? Some might say Great Voice of the Great Idols or anything of the MFTC stuff. Some may say this. You know, I know that when New Mike Order came out, that hit me directly in the chest. Do you know what I mean? But seeing people that have operated on that level making stuff is different to when you're seeing your homies making stuff. But one thing that was interesting was, you know, even though it was on a different level, the sort of similarities of it as well. And it's like, wow, you know, some of the stuff we was already doing that. But you know, you kind of like don't necessarily believe in yourself like that because you haven't reached that point. You know what I mean? So you think, oh, they must be doing something magical over there. Do you know what I mean? Right. And sometimes you realize, oh no, I know this. You know, I did this. You know what I mean? So it was just really great experience, like with those guys. You know what I mean? I can't big them up enough. Do you know what I mean?
So since you mentioned in 2010 is when you gave it up, you came back. Was that where your sound or your trying to think of how to say it, your lyrical content, did that change at that time too? Does that because like when I was talking to Jake, he was saying as your career went on, your music became darker in terms of its content.
Yeah.
Is that that happened around the 2010 area when you came back to music? Is that when or is it just
No, I mean, like, so probably that kind of started off maybe around, I want to say 2005, 2006, because obviously I just done the sort of double EP with Verb T on Low Life Records, right? So then after that, it was like a case of me doing, doing my solo album, right? And then, but doing a solo album, I was like, so remember earlier on I said, Cool Keith was one of my Holy Trinity. The Dr. Octagon album was immensely influential for me, right? And it was the first time that I'd really taken notice of a hip hop album that was as highly conceptualized as that, right?
Mm.
So when it came to me doing my album, I was like, right, I'm not just going to put like 14 tunes together of, random tunes together. Do you know what I mean? I started it doing like that, but then as the album went on, I started getting into this other concept, right? So at that time I was, and I still am actually, very much into John Constantine Hellblazer comics, right? So getting into that, getting as deep into it as I got, a sort of concept started formulating where, I was playing the character of a character similar to John Constantine, sort of battling sort of, demons in the physical and the other world. Do you know what I mean? And kind of like relating it to the world, but also relating it to myself at the same time. And, as I started getting into that more, that's when the sort of content sort of got a bit more darker. Do you know what I mean? Because I was following that path, following down that path. I mean, the Galactus album was a bit of a departure from that, but I sort of carried on that vibe when we got into doing Strange You, because I'm just into that sort of vibe. Do you know what I mean? But then Dr. Zygo is also into that sonically. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of just worked out perfectly, and because it worked out so perfectly, I think, content wise, I just lent into that more. You know what I mean? Because it was, obviously me and Zygo found that commonality, but I also found it quite intriguing to explore that sort of realm of darkness. Not miserable or anything like that, just darker. Do you know what I mean? Because I just feel like there's a lot of interesting things that you can take out of there. Do you know, like even on the Strange You album, I've got a song called Cimmerian Shade, which was basically exploring the concept of darkness. Do you know what I mean? Whether it be like actual darkness as in absence of light, or darkness as in, within yourself, or what's going on in the world. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man. And I don't think we ever had a conversation where we were like, yeah, let's make this ultra dark. It just happened to go in that direction. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man.
Yeah, I get that, because I like my writing often I'll decide that I'm going to write about something, but it always seems to come back to the demons as well. I mean, it is kind of that metaphor for me as well, because of all the stuff I have in my head that I try to work my way through, which I'm sure it's the same thing for you with your writing. It's a form of therapy. It's a form of getting through the stuff that you're battling with. So almost exclusively, I end up writing about demons as well. This goes that way, in a way for me to battle those demons and so to speak. So you're talking throughout that time, your alias changes quite a bit. And does that alias change for a particular reason? Do you, when you're rapping about something, a particular project, you think this will be perfect for this, or is there a reason why they change, or they've come up, or you have so many?
Yeah, I mean, literally, if I get on a certain vibe for a bunch of tunes or anything like that, I'll definitely, the alias has come about. They just, it just happens. You know what I mean? I think it's got a lot to do with growing up listening to Cool Keith, possibly. Do you know what I mean? Because, that was a regular thing with him. But, it just happens. Because, it's really interesting to sort of get into the zone of a certain thing, and on the alias is kind of for me at least anyway, kind of it comes as part of it because it kind of like helps you get into it more. You know what I mean? You kind of sort of like live with that alias through that period of time. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, because I like to submerge myself in stuff. Like for me, music has always been about escapism for me. Do you know what I mean? More than anything else, you know what I mean? Like when I listen to an album or I listen to anything, you know, I like to like sink myself into that world. Do you know what I mean? And just lose myself in that world. You know what I mean? So, you know, so that's where I guess the aliases things come in for me, because I want to just submerge myself in it, you know, become that character or that vibe. Do you know what I mean? For that duration of time. And then I come out of it, I come out the other end, and I look for something else. Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's really just about getting into the music more. You know, it's kind of like I look at the aliases like obviously, you know, I'm a comic book head. Do you know what I mean? But like flipping, do you know what I mean? Like there was, you know, like one of my favorite things. I'm a DC guy, as you've noticed, but like one of my favorite things in the world is one of my favorite characters in the world is Iron Man, the comic book version. And the thing about him is like if anyone knows about a story called Extremis, right? Which is it's like the Extremis is like a serum, right? So it's like it's almost like the super soldier serum, but it's programmable, right? So people can do stuff like, you know, they can program it to give them powers and all this kind of stuff, right? And sort of to cut a long story short, Iron Man used it on himself, right, in order to become more at one with his armor. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So it's like his armor was literally an extended, you know, an extension of himself, you know, because he noticed that there was a gap between thinking about doing something and then the action. Do you know what I mean? So he closed that gap. Do you know what I mean? So it's like literally, you know, it's literally plugged into his central nervous system. So, you know, with a thought, he's doing all of the stuff. I kind of look at it like that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like with the aliases, and once you establish that alias, you know, you kind of like, you know, you look into it more and you get deeper into it and you become that thing. So it's not like you're even, you know, thinking too hard about, oh, what should I say here or anything like that. It's like you are that character. So it just becomes your thing. Do you know what I mean? So
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to ask because I'm interested now. You made sure that you said the comic book version. Do you not like the MCU version then? Man?
No, I mean, you know what, right? The MCU version is cool, but I think that they focused too much on the charismatic side of Tony Stark, which is obviously one of the main things. But, you know, the fact is, I mean, the thing that I remember right now is that, like, I remember I was talking to someone and, you know, they were speaking about Tony Stark and they were saying that, oh, but he's just really just a meathead with loads of money. And I'm just like, nah, you know, that's what the MCU's made you think. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like Tony Stark, the character has got so much going on. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, he has the outward image of this playboy, but in there, he's just like the ultimate genius. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like cosmic level intellect. Do you know what I mean? And one thing that's really interesting about one thing that I love about reading Iron Man comics is like what lengths he's gone to improve his armor. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, you know, Tony Stark you know, he's a futurist. You know what I mean? He's always thinking about what the next thing is. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, so like, for example, you have Extremis, you know, he was doing the thing of injecting, you know, the serum into into the hollows of his bones, right? And what it does, it's not even just like it's a serum running through his veins. Like literally with a mental command, he'd call up like a sort of like inner suit, an inner layer, right? And this inner layer is the thing that allows him to connect with his suit, but it also allows him to like talk to all kinds of technology, whether it be this computer that I'm talking to you on or a satellite in space. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, but then to further that, the next level from that. I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of things happened with that, but the next level of that was his bleeding edge armor, which was his complete armor stored within the hollows of his bones, right? So with a mental, so it's like liquid, do you know what I mean? And with a mental command, he could manifest his armor within like that, do you know what I mean? And his armor was also modular, and it can also change and do all the stuff. So I say all that to say that the sort of genius level and sort of almost macabre things that he would do to further his goals weren't really explored, you know. There was one story called Stark Disassembled, right, where he kind of like died, right, but he left an option to sort of like reboot himself, I guess, because, you know, at this point, you know, he called himself a transhuman, in the sense that, you know, he's done stuff to his body. You know, he's no longer what you'd call a typical human. He's more akin to a cyborg, because he has, you know, cybernetic parts on his inside. And I remember this panel where they literally opened him up, and the surgeons were surprised, because they were looking in there and they were like, am I seeing wires in here? There's like wires and all types of stuff in there, right? Do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean by macabre. Like, do you know what I mean? Even later on, when he died again, like Hank McCoy, who's Beast in, you know, from the X-Men, you know, he was like, listen, I don't even want to take blood, because I don't even know what's going on in here. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, all of this stuff that we see in the comics just was not represented for him in the MCU, you know. And I get it though, you know, the whole quippy thing, you know, it sells tickets, man. It's cool. Do you know what I mean? I'm not even mad.
Yeah, I think as the series of movies went on, they got further and further away from who and what the characters truly are.
Thor.
Yeah, they got really away from everything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's neither here nor there. That's a conversation you and I can have.
Yeah, that's that's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
So I also see up here, I guess that's over your right shoulder, you have Frankenstein. So you have a horror. You have like a horror.
Oh, yeah. Here. No, that's the Green Lantern.
No, over.
Where?
Over, up. Right above the
Green sorry, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Jesus, sorry, mate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you have a love for horror as well as comics?
Yeah, to an extent. You know, I'm definitely interested in Frankenstein's monster, because, like, I just find it interesting that, like, you know, this guy was so with Dr. Frankenstein was so interested in that was so intrigued by, you know, human life. You know, they experimented with trying to recreate it, but doing it in such a macabre way. You know, it's just like different pieces of different people. Now, we all know that, like, you know, stored within blood, you know, there could, you know, certain traits of personalities and maybe even some memories can be stored within these things. So having so many different parts of a person put together as one, that always intrigued me. I was like, that's crazy. Do you know what I mean? That's real crazy, you know? And that whole thing interested me. If you look over there, then I've got another one of The Day the Earth Stood Still as well. Don't know if you see it there. Yeah, Day the Earth Stood Still as well.
Okay, yeah.
Massive fan of that whole thing. Do you know what I mean? Even when they did the remake, I thought the remake was really cool as well. You know, it's very, very interesting take on why an alien would come to this planet, basically, you know,
right.
Which was basically to get rid of everyone because we're fucking the whole shit up. Do you know what I mean? But you know, it was quite an interesting. Yeah, I'm interested in it. You know, especially like the old stuff, because the aesthetic of the old stuff is very it's interesting to me. It's timeless, and it just sort of hits you it just hits differently. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it other than that, but
no, yeah. I get that for sure. So you were mentioning about the fact that music being like an escape escapism, and this has always been something that I've thought when I bring up UK hip hop to people, and I don't quite understand. I haven't heard a lot of grime, but from what I've been pushed towards, it hasn't spoken to me in a way that the underground stuff that you guys do speaks to me.
Yeah.
That's maybe because of my age, perhaps it's because I've been listening to hip hop since I've been 13 years old. So, but do you think part of the issue is when it comes to, I know the underground community is very small. Do you think part of the thing is that it is that escapism? Like for me, like I look at you cats, man, and I see guys who have, full-time jobs and families, and you're not renting Lamborghinis for your videos. You're not every song is talking about, bitches, drugs, and money. It's actually about, fighting with your demons. It's about, living day to day. It's about real life, right? And do you think maybe that could be a little bit of an issue for some people, where it's like, well, I don't want to hear about that shit. I want to escape and into this world of fantasy where it's all, gorgeous women, big houses, expensive cars. Do you think that could be where some people gravitate towards, or maybe away from underground music, perhaps?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the things about sorry, I'm just getting my phone's blowing up here. One of the things about UK hip hop is that there's not the sort of sensationalism there. Do you know what I mean? At all. And like I think that that might be a problem for some people, because like you say, people think, I guess people think, what, life is shit enough as it is. I don't want to be reminded. Do you know what I'm saying? but I guess like with us, like we've always been always about the art. Yeah, we can't be about anything else, because the industry over here is not quite like that, where we're getting hundreds of thousands thrown at us. Do you know what I mean? To do stuff, to do whatever. It's not like that in UK hip hop anyway. Do you know what I mean? So we end up, because we're in that position, we always end up talking about either extreme real life or some other shit, that's why a lot of us over time have, rap about, sci-fi shit or this or that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because, it's about the art. It's about how can we go in and do some ill shit. Do you know what I mean? Basically, do you know what I mean? That is literally the aim. Because like I say, we don't have, all that stuff thrown at us. So it's like, really, okay, cool. Let's go in. Do you know what I mean? In whatever way that comes. And also, like, we're not walking around trying to, I don't think any of us have ever necessarily been impressed by high fashion and shit like this as well. So when people see us, perhaps, this plays into it. They're just like, okay, I just don't want to see that. I want to see flashy stuff. I want to see, this and that, shiny, we're past the shiny suit era, but like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? People want to see people like living it up and looking like they're really enjoying themselves. And the thing is, we enjoy ourselves making the music that we make, but it's just not, we enjoy the artistry of it. Do you know what I mean? So I think perhaps that doesn't resonate with some people, because that's not what they're interested in. Do you know what I mean? So perhaps. Yeah.
One of the things that always stick out in my mind is when Verb T said, "Do it for the love, not for the shine." Right? That's always, that's my best way of explaining UK hip hop, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, I guess you would do this even if you weren't making money.
Yeah.
You do make some money. Going back to your time with Low Life Records and doing stuff, with Jest, with YNR and stuff. When you first made whether it was $15, when you first made your first little money and looking back at that time, just speak to me a little bit about that, your mindset when you kind of felt like this could be something I could do.
Wow. Well, I'd say the first time was probably with Low Life Records, and I think what was going on. I think there was a compilation called the Food Compilation, and what's it called? Trying to remember how much it was. Right, I think Brain Tax wrote me a check for like 200 quid or something like that. And I literally almost took off into outer space. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, wow, this is like, going from not receiving anything to that. And obviously with a label that I was completely gassed to be on. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd been listening to Brain Tax since like the Future Years EP, which came out in like 95 or some shit. Do you know what I mean? So like, the fact that I was even on the label and getting paid to do this song was like crazy, like, and I think from there on, whether I realized it or not, at that point there, I was like, right, yeah, we're carrying on down this road right here. Do you know what I mean? Because it was such a crazy feeling, man. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and don't get it twisted. It's obviously. It's an uphill struggle trying to make money from this thing. But what I will say is this, right? And, I'm not one to put out personal information like that, but I will say this, for anyone that's coming up and aspiring to do this, like, you can make money. And you know why? Because this is my job. Like, I don't have a 9-to-5 anymore. This is my 9-to-5. Do you know what I mean? So look at me, right, and understand that this shit is possible, right? You just need to like focus hard, right? Work on your shit, you know what I mean? Be self-critical of your stuff, but not cripplingly self-critical. And you just need to just do your best, and it's it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what I mean? 100%. But yeah, it was an amazing feeling, to answer your question.
Now, when you were with YNR and Jess, do you still have a relationship with Jess? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was talking to him the other day, so definitely. But it's just things move on. Like him. Things move on, but as you probably can see, like we still work with each other. We still, we did Dolph Lundgren, we did he did stuff on the Strange You album. You still have that relationship. I mean, like Jest is definitely he's definitely a lion-hearted type of dude. Do you know what I mean? Like he's definitely a warrior. I'll put you like that. Do you know what I mean? And shout out to him, man, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Now, when we were chatting, actually, I'm gonna save this question for last, but I want to get into Old Children for a second, and you doing the production. What was that? Was that just you wanting to try? Again, I don't know if you've done a lot of production in the past, but is this something you just wanted to do? You just wanted to stay off the mic, make some music and see, or is this something you've wanted to do for a long time and you just wanted to get and got back into it? Or
yeah, I mean, okay, so I'll put it like this. Sorry if I'm moving the camera a lot. Jesus, no, flipping ants in my pants. But what's it called? So the first time I touched any equipment was around about 1997, right? So local estate that I was on at the time, Graham Park Estate, Graham Park Estate. There was a, which by the way is one of the biggest housing estates in the country, with over 300 blocks, basically. Within the estate, and also to add to that estate is like a universe unto itself. Like literally, you could exist without leaving. Do you know what I mean? There was like two schools and a college there. there was like within the middle part, the concourse, there was like, you know, supermarket, news agents, off license. There's a flipping doctor surgery there, library. Like, it was crazy. You did not have to leave. But what was also there was a youth club, right? And in this youth club was this cat called Anthony Castle, who was employed by the council to, you know, he had a room in there and he was employed by the council to teach, you know, the youngers, I guess, from the estate, how to do music production. So me and two of my brethrens, Ill Eternal Beats, aka Marcus, and DJ Crooked Fingers, who we used to actually have a group called Alien Funk, actually. And basically we went in there together and he taught us how to use the Akai S950 along with Cubase on the Atari ST, right? Which was the classic old school setup for like jungle music and all this kind of stuff, right? Because like on the Atari ST, right, obviously there was no, it was just straight up MIDI information. There was no like audio that you could input into the actual computer. You were just using that to control the S950 sampler, right? So because of that, everyone loved using it because it was solid. Do you know what I mean? You weren't having to deal with all this other mad computing. It was just it's like a calculator. You notice how a calculator doesn't crash. You know what I mean? It's the same mentality. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's very rare unless there was something wrong with your Atari, it's very rare for it to crash. Do you know what I mean? Because it was only dealing with MIDI information. So you know, that was the first time. And I've always, if I tell you the truth, I've always been into the musical element more than the rapping element. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Like when I first started messing around with music or wanting to do music, I wanted to know how to make those sounds. And, you know, the first thing I wanted to do was be a DJ, right? But my mum wasn't having none of it. Do you know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? So the easiest thing to do was to write bars. And what I used to do is, like, my cousin came to stay with us over from Nigeria, and he got like a job at the Nigerian embassy. So, and he came through with all these bags of tapes. So when he'd go off to work, I'd obviously bust into his room, you know, dig through all his bags of tapes. And then that's where I actually found 3 Feet High and Rising and stuff, which is what got me into wanting to make music. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've always been more into the sort of musical element of it, the sounds, the way it sounded and stuff. So, but the rapping thing was the easiest thing to get into, and I kind of fell into that more and more and more. But I always had an eye on the production, and I'd pick it up here and there whenever my friends had equipment or anything like that. But it's always something I wanted to do, right? So remember I said to you that I stopped doing music in 2010. In 2010, I bought Farmer G's old laptop, right? Mm-hmm. And he kindly left all the stuff like Logic and all that stuff on there, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to rap or anything like this, but just in my own time, I am going to fuck with these beats. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I was kind of doing, you know, for all that time, you know, just listening to music and trying to fuck about. So then obviously Strange You came about, and I just went back into writing mode. Do you know what I mean? Because at the time I found it difficult to do the writing and the making beats at the same time. Because for me it's all or nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't have space for both of them in my head. So, but then yeah, after we did the album and that sort of chilled out a little bit, I started thinking about, you know, the production thing. And in my mind I was like, you know what? I'm gonna not rap and I'm just gonna make beats. So I was making beats for a long time, and then how did this all come about? Then just on an off chance, I showed Moriarty. I don't know if you know about Moriarty. That's another dude, you know, for you to check out. He's a dope producer, and you know, he just heard some of my beats and was like, oh, is this you? And I was like, yeah. And then that's where Chuck Enzo was born. I don't know if you know about Chuck Enzo, but that's another one of my aliases, which is like on some production shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Just purely on some production shit. So I started doing that, and so with Buddha French, I've known Buddha French for ages. Do you know what I mean? Unfortunately, do you know what I'm saying? So we've always been talking about doing music and all this kind of stuff, and it kind of got to the point where, we both was in a place where we was like, let's do something. Do you know what I mean? We've been talking about it for a long time, and initially it was supposed to have been me doing some beats for his stuff, because and bear in mind, this is after God Status, actually. This is after God Status. So we got to the point where we was like, okay, look, I got time, you got time, let's do it. And then he was like, my friend, my brethren Jen is about too. Maybe we should get him on something. So initially we were just going to get him on the louder tune, but then it just worked so well and we all got on so well that it was like, you know what, let's just do a whole project. Do you know what I mean? So, I was just making beats, and it just happened. It's very organic. It wasn't even like, right, guys, let's do this now. I mean, it just organically happened, and it was good because, I was getting into that zone of wanting to work with artists on bodies of work, basically. So, it all just worked out, man, in the end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's amazing to me when I think about when you're telling that story and talking about going through that bag of tapes and finding the tape that made you want to make music. Like, to me, that type of stuff, that serendipity stuff, man, it just, it blows my mind, right? To think that you and I are talking because there was a bag of tapes and you found it, like, that shit just blows my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, if my cousin didn't come to stay with us, I'm not sure I don't know if I'd have picked it up in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Because literally when I put that tape in, you know what I mean, and press play of 3 Feet High and Rising, from the beginning, it just got me. Do you know what I mean? And I could feel something changed in my head. Do you know what I mean? At that point, do you know what I mean? Even though I probably couldn't articulate it at the time, but something, a switch just flipped. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not sure if we'd even be having this conversation if that didn't happen, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it blows my mind,
Yeah. Because that definitely locked me in. And then sort of like on top of that, the visits to the States and back sort of like made it, more louder in my head. Do you know what I mean? So maybe if I didn't go through those bags of tapes, but I still went to the States, it might have just been something that I kind of liked and was just, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting, man.
Yeah, for me, like I was heavy into heavy metal. I had long hair. I wore like the concert t-shirts with the white sleeves. Like I was all about heavy metal. Yeah. And getting back to Rap City, I was visiting my cousin. He was at school. I put on Rap City, and then Kumo D came on, Wild Wild West. Yeah. And I heard that, and I'm like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
And from that point, cut my hair, and then that was it. I was all about hip hop from that point.
Yeah. For real. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I mean, what year was that around?
Well, that had to be, that was in the late 80s.
Late 80s, yeah. But that's kind of like when I got into it. It was like late 80s, early 90s. Do you know what I mean? Basically, do you know what I mean? Yeah. When I was about 9, 10. So I was 10 in 1990, basically. But do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's been a journey, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So, speaking of journeys, you're back with High Focus. You're coming out with an album with Alex DeLarge. Did I say that right? Yeah. Your new track Soul Caliber just came out, so I wanted to just talk about that. You were mentioning before we started the interview, you were talking about some of the stuff that's going on with High Focus right now. So if you can touch a little bit on that, and as well as maybe some of the younger cats you're seeing here now, like with Verbs, with being on High Focus and stuff. You want to touch a little bit about that?
Yeah, shout out Verbs as well. Actually, I did some stuff with him as Chuck Enzo, actually, because he had an album out called Pathways on a label called Group Brazil. which Moriarty runs actually. Yeah, I did the song called Tightrope on there. Do you know what I mean? As Chuck Enzo. So shout out to him, man, definitely. But yeah, I mean, I guess with like High Focus is, you know, it's been great being on High Focus, if I'm being honest with you, man. It's like they really do things properly. They're good guys. They know this. They know the stuff. They, you know, they're heads as well. Do you know what I mean? Which is, you know, which you know, makes all the difference, man. But you know, they're very, you know, High Focus is an apt title because, you know, like, you know, the thing is, right, you know, some of these guys can look like they don't care about anything, you know. Oh no, actually, I wouldn't say that they don't care about anything, but you know what I mean, like very like free and just like, you know, But like you speak to any one of those cats, you know, they're just like laser focused, man. Do you know what I mean? Like I was talking to someone about Dyke the other day, actually, and like about how, you know, the most sort of common idea of who he is, you know, shock value lyrics. And some people think that that's all that he is. And it's like, no, do you know what I'm saying? This guy is like, this guy knows his shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like for real, like, you know what I mean? And he's got deeper shit too. Like way, you know, loads of it. Right. And the guy's like brimming with ideas. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Same thing with like, you know, like with all of these guys, like Flip Tricks, man. That guy is so switched on, yeah, that it's beautiful to witness, man. To be honest with you, man. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's just like it's amazing, man. Because like he could come across, you know, he's made a few songs about weed and stuff like this, and he's made songs about loads of stuff. But you know, when people make songs about, you know, about that, some people would immediately say, oh, this guy's a hippie, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, this guy, you know, he's very much in tune with spirituality, but at the same time, yeah, this guy is just like so clued up and just knows what he's doing at all times, you know what I mean? It's flipping amazing, man, do you know what I mean? So witnessing that has been inspiring to me as well, you know what I mean? And yeah, and like, it's actually like Flips that's been sort of kicking me up the arse to get certain things in order with my stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously I've been putting music out for a long time, but I haven't really been focused on necessarily the business aspect of it, or, you know, making sure that everything is in the same place for anyone that might like my music to check out. One thing I realized coming up doing all this stuff is that some people that might be into Strange You, right, would not know that I've done albums previously. Do you know what I mean? Or conversely, some people that might know me for my earlier stuff might not know that I've done Strange You. Do you know what I mean? Or God Status or anything else. Do you know what I mean? Or any of the stuff like on Receptor Records or anything like that. So, you know, what we're doing right now is just putting it all in order, putting it all in the same place so everyone can check it all out. We're reissuing some of my old albums as well, In the Hour of Chaos, Raiders of the Lost Archives and stuff like that. So yeah, we're just getting everything in order basically right now. And while also moving forward, you know, it's like we got Soul Calibur that came out, but we've also got next week, we've got a new single coming out called North Star, featuring a singer from, she was in Brighton. I can't remember for the life of me where she's at now, but it's called Maddie. She's awesome. And yeah, man, we're just moving forward, man. Yeah, there will be an album with me and Alex as well. I that's another person as well. Alex, I can't big him up enough. Like Alex is like in his 20s, right? But trust me, he could go toe to toe with us talking about, you know, 90s shit and 80s shit. Like he knows his stuff, like for real. Like sometimes, man, when I do certain stuff on tracks, like I have to like go through lengths to explain what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Right? But with Alex, he'd be like, oh, it's like that thing from that record, isn't it? And you'd be like, yes. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, he's just a real talented guy, man. And what also makes him a very talented as well is that, like, his sound, you could put it in a lo-fi category, right? But like, he knows how to do things in a clean way as well, right? He learned how to do things properly, right? But for him is, and I definitely, you know, I'm an advocate for this mentality. You know, his mentality was, you know, learn the rules so you can break them more effectively. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah. Like, when, you know what I mean? So when you hear his production, it's like you'll hear shit from the, you know, that influenced by 90s, but you'd be like, oh, but it's got that modern lo-fi vibe to it as well. It's like, oh, what's going on here? So yeah, man. Yeah, he's dope, man. So yeah, we're doing an album, and probably drop maybe some point next year. Probably, hopefully early next year. Do you know what I mean? I'm just working on it now. Yeah.
That's terrific, man. Well, I guess my last question would be, I ask everybody the same question. Would be, actually, there's two questions that are kind of related. One would be, can you think of a bar that you've heard another artist drop that you thought to yourself, oh man, I wish I had written that?
Jeez. Let me think now. There's loads, man. But, you know, and I always can think about them until someone asks me. Then it's all over. Let me think now. Let me think. There's loads, man. I'd say, okay, I can't tell you. Think of a specific one. I can't right now tell you a specific bar, but I will say pretty much everything that was written by, there's this rapper called Scaramanga, aka Sir Menelik, right? He's done shit on Raucus, you know, he's down with Ultramagnetic MCs and all this kind of stuff. And literally, like, everything that he's written, yeah, is like ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? And like, and he doesn't really have a conventional writing style either. It's like a lot of it's quite cryptic, you know. It's just real crazy, man. I'm just trying to think of a specific one here. Let me think now. Oh shit. You know, my brain is just a bastard, yeah, because now, instead of thinking of something serious, like a Tim Dog lyric has just jumped into my head that used to make me laugh. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I should say that one, but yeah, like, okay, fuck it, I'll say it. You know, Tim Dog, right? He did Fuck Compton, yeah, right? And there was a song on there, and there's a bar on there where he's dissing Michelle, right? From you know, Michelle, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, he goes something like, but I'm so bad, I fucked Michelle in the bathroom. We was boning. You should have heard how the bitch was moaning. That shut the fuck up, bitch. You can't sing. You sound like a kid playing on a swing. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I tried to think of something serious here, but this one popped into my head. Sorry. You know what I mean? I know that as soon as this is over, as soon as I close this laptop, I'll probably come up with about 10 serious ones. Do you know what I'm saying? But
100%. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. But it's like literally, so I can say, look, anything that, I mean, there's lots of doom lyrics that I wish I'd wrote. Do you know what I'm saying? What's one? Oh yeah, he said something like Dapper Dan dipped and pretend to be what is it? So yeah, it's Dapper Dan dipped and pretend to be Fendi and gold selling, no telling, slap a fan hand down, tell him no yelling, doom all capitals, no trick spelling. Got what it takes to get it through your thick melon. You know what I mean? Things like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like so many like clever shit that he says, man. But yeah, you know, you got me on that question, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
I get everybody that way.
Yeah, I'm sweating hard.
Okay, and the last one for today would be, who's your dream collab with? If you could be with any producer or producing yourself for an artist. Because you do both.
Dream collab. I think working with dream collab. I mean, one collab that would have been cool would have been, you know, when he was alive was would be Doom. You know what I'm saying? For a few reasons. For the reason that I just think he's incredible, but also the reason is so that everyone that compares me to Doom, can hear us back to back and notice that we are actually quite different. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's him. If I could produce for Sir Menelik, that is one of my dream things to happen. Yeah, I mean, produce something for him, and that would be great. Who else? Dream collab. Godfather Don. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're familiar with Godfather Don, but you know, I'd love to work with that dude, man. If I tell you what, if I could get on a song with Godfather Don and Sir Menelik, that's it. I can quit and be happy. You know what I'm saying? For real. Like, yeah, man. You know what I mean? I'd have loved to. Sorry.
Speaking of which, I have noticed, and I don't know if this has been something that's been going on for a long time. I just don't know, but there's a lot of older US artists who are now appearing on a lot of underground UK music.
That's right.
It's been popping up a lot, man. I don't know what that is.
It's just really the fact that we still hold these guys at very, very high, extremely high regard. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, the opportunity to work with any of these guys is just like incredible. You know what I mean? It's still, you know, we get as hype as we would for anyone current that's big. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, it's just the love of the you know, the true hip hop artists, man. You know, we respect that so much. We love it. Do you know what I mean? So the opportunity to work with someone like Master Ace or Craig G or like, you know, any one of these cats is just like wicked. You know what I mean? Like I see Revorg. Actually, let me not say that because I don't know if they're telling anyone. So that one. Yeah, like just the opportunity to work with any of these cats. Oh, I'll tell you what. I'd love to work with Large Professor. You know what I'm saying? Large Professor, I'd love to work with him. Mainly just to work with him, but to be in the studio with him and just talk to the dude, man. You know what I mean? Hear about what it was like, you know, coming up, you know, and just his whole story, man. He's, you know, hearing stories about Queens and, you know, how certain styles were born and, you know, how this guy, how what he did on the production for this thing, how he chopped that thing over there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's, you know, I'd love that, man. I love stories, basically, especially from dudes that have been there and done it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like their stories are just golden and like something to behold, man, and to be cherished, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, yeah, man.
I understand, and I want to thank you for being here and sharing your stories. I really enjoyed this, and I know a lot of people who sub to my channel, man, are going to be happy to see this because, you know, you're one of the goats, dude. And people
thanks,
love
man.
you. So
thanks, man. I just hope I wasn't just waffling on about nothing. Like that's what I do a lot. Yeah, it's like someone asks me a question. Hey, what's the time? And I'll be like, yes, well, the square root of 9 is blah blah blah. So yeah, hopefully I answered your questions and that.
Yeah, man, it's been great. It's been an honor, and I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Anytime, brother.
All right, have yourself a great day. All right.
You too, man. Peace. Oh, one more thing. Shout out to my Receptor Records family. Shout out to Ill Breed. Yo, we're coming. Look out for us, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, peace, man.
All right, bro. Take it easy.